You feeling like you shouldn't be in this world, that's such an extreme feeling. Misdiagnosis with bipolar or depression and anxiety, I think realising that if you can start to see the patterns within yourself and realise that it's not happening all the time.
Premenstrual Dysphoric Disorder, PMDD, is a severe chronic hormone-based mood disorder. It causes debilitating, intense emotional and physical symptoms such as extreme irritability, depression, anxiety, and severe mood swings that significantly impair daily life, work, and especially relationships. So you might think that today's story is all about women, a story about women for women. But in actual fact, it is also a very important story for you partners and men out there. So today we meet Alex, and her story revolves around PMDD. We'll explain more coming up just now. First and foremost, I want to welcome you to Gibraltar, second home for you.
Yes.
You've travelled across, and thank God you actually landed, because we've had lots of storms recently. You came to do other things, obviously you're visiting mum and all the rest of it, but I wanted to get you because there's a very important syndrome, condition, however you want to call it, disorder as it happens, called PMDD, and that is something that I share in common with you, because I've also struggled with this for years and years and years, and many people know very little, if anything at all, about it. So let's rewind back to those first days when you're a young woman, and we're having that talk with mum about our first periods and how we manage all of that going forward.
I actually remember my mum got me like a sort of sexual health book, which had all of these things I could fill out and talked about periods and stuff like that. But I mean, I got my period, I think, when I was 14. So I was a bit later
Same
in
as
the
me,
game.
actually.
Yeah. Okay. I think it was like a year or two later that me and Louise, who's my husband, we started dating. So my mum at the time, being a very sensible mum, was like, I think you should probably go on the birth control pill. So I went on that when I was about 16, I think, 15, 16. And then my periods have always been tricky, even on the pill. And actually, no, looking back, specifically because I was on the pill and on the wrong type of pill. So yeah, I always had mood swings throughout my sort of cycle, regardless of whether it was the beginning or the end, when I was on the pill. And it was only when I came off of the pill that I started to see, well, actually Louise started to see a trend in my mood swings.
That's very, very interesting, actually, that your husband started to see I don't know whether we share the same experiences. I'm sure they're very similar. But those mood swings, you start to become oblivious to them, because in my case, for example, there was only 10 good days a month, basically, where I felt normal. Was this the case with you?
Yeah, it's about, I mean, it is pretty much, it hits the nail on the head as soon as those 2 weeks are up and I'm in that phase. I can immediately start to see the changes in me now that I'm aware of them, but it was like clockwork. Once I came off the pill, it was like you could tell when it was happening.
What was connected to that when we talk about periods, and we'll talk openly about periods? I mean, it's something very normal, of course. what would they like? Because your average period is maybe 5 to 7 days. No, 7 days is probably a bit long. Probably around the 5-day mark. Quite medium to light. No issues, no problem. Maybe a little bit of cramping, all of that kind of thing. Were yours severe?
They weren't. I think I was speaking to other women who have had, I mean, horror stories when it comes to their periods. I think I would say I was like in the medium. I definitely didn't have light, gentle periods, but I didn't have, you know, severe bleeding out. You know, people, I've heard, you know, friends who've had quite severe periods. So I feel like I'm sort of in the happy medium of periods, because I do get cramping, I do get heavy periods, but they don't last a very long time, which is nice. But I also have endometriosis, so there's a whole other issue with periods. I think my cramping is probably one of the worst symptoms, the pain on the first couple of days, and depending on some months it is debilitating, and luckily I work for a company who's very flexible with working from home, so on those days I tend to work from home because I just don't want to be around people when I'm in that much pain.
It's tough being a woman, isn't it? It really, really is. So your husband, he's the one that picked up on it.
Yeah.
What were the kinds of things that he would tell you? Because there is a pattern.
Yeah.
The thing is, we don't know that pattern until we're well into it.
Yeah.
And it's often the partner that brings it up.
Yeah.
And, you know, knows there's a big mood swing coming. How did he approach that? It's a very difficult one for the men.
Well, I think it was, so as I said, like so we've grown up together essentially, and so when I was on the pill, it was very sporadic, random mood swings. It was never kind of, they never happened at the same time. So it was when I came off the pill, because I had a bad experience on a pill called Regevidon, and I think a lot of women have a bad experience with that pill in particular. But when I came off of that, and I then went into my regular cycle after having a bit of sort of coming off of the pill and the hormones settling, it was sort of every month there would be a day or two where Louise would be like, "Oh, are you on your period?" You kind of joke, you know, that kind of thing. And I'm like, no, it's 10 days away, it's 8 days away, it's 2 weeks away. No, I'm not on my period. And it was that consistently for like a year or two, where he would kind of make those sort of comments, or "You're really ratty right now, what's going on?" Or and it was because of that I started to be like, okay, something's not, this isn't normal that it's happening every single time, and it's before my period. Because from what I knew about periods, that you get PMS the week before your period, and you're a bit ratty and but this was happening before, and it didn't make sense to me. And I actually came across a book, and I think it was during lockdown. It was a fictional crime thriller book by Megan Abbott. I can't remember, I think it was something like "You Are My Hand" or something like that. I can't think of the title right now, but it is involving two doctors who are studying PMDD, and it goes into their research and things like that. And as I'm reading it, I'm going, oh, this is making
Penny
sense. Yeah, I'm like, okay, this happens to me, and I was like, okay, I think this might be what's going on with me, because I've spoken to other friends and they're not feeling the way I'm feeling, you know, sort of 2 weeks before my period. So yeah, that's when I sort of started that's why I discovered what PMDD was.
So how were you feeling? Because the mood swings, what people might not see the difference between PMDD and PMS, which is perfectly normal, is that PMDD is abnormal. It's the extreme form of PMS.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling a bit grouchy or emotional during that week before your period, you know, you snap back at the husband or the children, you lack a bit of patience. That is an extreme form. So we're going now from being to the point of violent to being to the point of suicidal.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you feeling?
My rage levels were, I'd go from 0 to 100 over the smallest things. And it wouldn't make sense that I was getting that upset about something. It wasn't necessarily that the thing I was upset about was wrong that I was upset about it. It was just the level to how I was feeling that upset, and showing it. And yeah, it just felt like this rage just built up in me. So rage was a big thing. And I think for me, it's the hopelessness and sadness, and it feels like a spiral, and you can't get out of it. And it would lead to suicidal ideation. I've never, luckily, acted upon it or, done anything physical with that, but I have felt like I don't want to be here. If I feel like this, and there's no particular rhyme or reason for it, I haven't had any massively bad experience that month, but I feel like I shouldn't be here, and every little thing feels like massive. So it's definitely the beginning, and before being diagnosed, it was really hard to kind of understand why I was feeling like that. And there was a point where I thought I was depressed. I thought I had depression. I went to the doctors and said, I think it's depression. And they recommended CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy. And I my degree was in drama and psychology, so I kind of knew a lot of the talking points of cognitive behavior therapy. And for me, it didn't really help, because it was, cognitive behavior therapy is more about kind of changing your behavior. And for me, I felt like I couldn't control the behavior. So it was tricky to understand how that would be beneficial. So yeah, I thought it was depression, but it was that thing of, it would never last long enough. So I would feel like I was depressed for 2 weeks, and then my period would come, and then I would get through that and be like, oh, I feel fine now. I feel okay. I feel like a normal human being. And so then that's when it wasn't depression, it was something different. It didn't last long enough for it to be sort of classified, but not, the GP at that point didn't ever question the fact that it wasn't like long lasting.
So many syndromes like this and disorders are so difficult to diagnose and pinpoint. And if we think way back to the Victorian ages, when women suffered from hysteria, and they would lock them up and in mental institutions and things like that. And it's always been very, very misunderstood. In my own experience, I was diagnosed with bipolar, and I was like,
a lot of women are.
I no, it doesn't sit right with me. It's something else. I just want to hone in on the feelings, because for women watching and men who might recognise signs in their women, I think it was very key what you said about not knowing how to control it, that it was out of your control. And I felt very much like that as well, that I couldn't understand it, and I seemed helpless in being able to do anything about it. So how did your husband deal with those moments? Because they are very difficult to understand, those extreme flip-flops.
I mean, it was definitely, that was a big struggle for our relationship for a couple of years, of actually trying to understand how to deal with that. And it could have very much ended our relationship, because it was really hard, and I was horrible to him, and he had to put up with a lot of not very nice moments with me, and yelling and shouting and slamming things. And it is tantamount to almost abusive behaviour. And I felt awful for it afterwards, when I'd kind of come out of the spiral and the guilt. But it was that thing of, it's like, being a bull and seeing red, and you cannot come out of it and unfocus out of it and realise, oh, okay, I'm being irrational, or I'm taking this too far, because it just keeps going up and up and up, and doesn't feel like you can come down. So it was really hard, especially at the beginning. And especially when I wasn't, hadn't been diagnosed and hadn't sort of gone through any sort of treatment or anything like that. So
it's definitely got something to do with hormones.
Yes,
that is something that we cannot control.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very difficult to control hormone levels. And obviously the fluctuations are, roller coaster type, not hills or valleys.
Yeah.
Looking forward at that point, you're having these conversations with your husband, you are raising a sense of awareness, you've realised something's not quite right.
Mm-hmm.
You've done, obviously, you probably did a little bit of research as we
Yeah.
do. What happens next? How do you find a diagnosis to a syndrome disorder that is so new and only recognised in the medical journals up until the last 10 years, I think it has been?
So during lockdown, obviously I think there was a lot of people sharing stuff online about conditions and things like that. And actually it was through social media that I kind of started picking up that, actually I think I have ADHD, and being like, I have ADHD, and then again picking up things and learning more and researching about PMDD. And actually there's a high comorbidity rate between ADHD and PMDD. It's like 46% of women in the UK, I think, if they have one, they have the other. And actually it's like higher for people with women and people who have uteruses with autism. It's like 92%. So it's quite a high comorbidity if you're neurodivergent. And yeah, so I was lucky at the time that my place of work, I had like a cashback medical care, because it was something I didn't really know much about. I wanted to go to a specialist, so I was really lucky that I was able to pay for a consultation with a specialist clinic that specialised in women's health and menstrual disorders, and I spoke to a doctor for about an hour. Told her all my symptoms, everything that's happened between me and my husband and how I've been feeling and everything. And through that, she said, you have pretty much ticked off nearly every symptom that somebody with PMDD has. So she diagnosed me there and then gave me some suggestions for a treatment plan that I could then go to the NHS GP to sort of go through. But there's no, again, with a lot of women's health, there's no cure. There's just treatment for the symptoms, as is the same with my other condition of endometriosis. So it was there was relief that I wasn't going crazy, because that it very much felt like that I was going crazy every month, and there was relief in that. But I was also very sad that there wasn't really much, like, there are things I can do and I have done, but I'm going to be stuck with it until menopause, basically.
Yep. And I can guarantee you'll come through it, as I have through menopause. So
no, and I think that's what's been interesting as well, because I've noticed, like, with my mum going through menopause, and now on the other side, the difference is intense, like how, her mood swings were and then now are. And I think, so there's part of me that's not I suppose I'm not looking forward to it, but I'm also looking forward to the relief as well. Yes. Not having to deal with it anymore.
I'm very relieved.
Yes.
So with very little known about, within reason, very little known about it, and I would think a choice of your traditional medicine and lifestyle choices. What did you decide to do? What worked? What didn't work?
Initially, I suppose because we're all a little bit, as a society, a bit scared of taking medication. I certainly was a bit like, I don't want to go straight onto full-blown medication. So I tried supplements at first. I was given a list of supplements to try. My issue is that with having ADHD, I'm not very good at taking daily supplements and remembering to take them. So I would take them sporadically, and I didn't see a massive benefit from taking the supplements, but that's more because I didn't take them religiously enough. One thing that definitely did help in terms of working through it and managing it and coping it was therapy. And I saw a therapist who specialised in PMDD, and that was massively beneficial to start getting awareness of how I am, what my triggers are, what I can do to sort of calm myself down, relieve myself of that feeling, and also distancing myself from the PMDD as well, and understanding that it isn't me, that it is part of me, but it's not me, and I'm not that person, and giving some help, coping tools for Louise as well. And we also started couples therapy around the same time to also sort of help with that and help him manage with it as well, because it was hard for him. Even once I'd got diagnosed, it was still, I had some really, really bad periods during that time where I was, it was working out what was going to suit me. But yeah, therapy massively helped. I suppose for us, it was about learning what would help me come down from that. So during therapy, I realised for me, it was very much that I needed physical holding and like calming, whereas where he'd go, tell me what to do, or let me fix something, let me make a cup of tea, or let me do the chores. That wasn't, I was like, I don't want any of that. I want you to physically sit with me and hold me and just either let me cry it out or just help me breathe and bring my nervous system down, because it's part of that. Your nervous system is heightened, so you're in fight or flight, and usually you fight, so it's trying to bring that down. So I think once we kind of got that down, and realizing as well that it is a condition, and it is a biological condition, and it's not something that can be controlled. It can be managed and it can be made better, but it cannot. We're not doing it for fun. We're not doing it to have an argument. We're not doing it to pick or prod, and that was something we had to work through.
You're empowered with the knowledge, seeking the right medical care, all of those things, and that helps. It helps a lot to understand what you're feeling and how it's going. Alex, where are you today?
So I did eventually move on to medication because although the therapy had helped with me with awareness and things like that, it didn't stop the spirals, and the suicidal ideation was getting progressively worse. So I decided that it was time to try something bit more hardcore, and so I am now taking SSRIs, which are serotonin. Basically, it helps you absorb more serotonin, and instead, because they're used to treat depression, but for depression you're supposed to take them every day, whereas with PMDD, because obviously you're not experiencing the symptoms every day, you only need to take them during your luteal phase. So I take them for 2 weeks before my period and then come off, and so far that has really helped in just taking the edge off. And I haven't in the last couple of months I've not had any suicidal ideation, and I've not my rage has been tempered. It's not quite gone, as Louise will attest to.
And you're a redhead to boot.
Well, exactly. And I have a Scottish mother and Scottish heritage, so so that's definitely helped, and that's a real marked difference for me. It's just taken that bit of the dip of the edge of the pool away, and it's less deep to go into, so that's definitely helped. And I think I'm just really keen on talking to women about it, because I think They say there's only like, I think it's like 3 to 8% of women who have PMDD. Part of me wonders if that there is more of that, and people just assume it's PMS. But I think what people need to understand that is that you feeling like you shouldn't be in this world is not PMS. That's not, you know, that's such an extreme feeling. And yeah, and also misdiagnosis with bipolar or depression and anxiety. I think realizing that if you can start to see the patterns within yourself and realize that it's not happening all the time, that's when you maybe need to go see a doctor. And you know, not every doctor unfortunately has great expertise in it, but one thing I've realized, especially with my endometriosis and PMDD, is you've got to advocate for yourself. And if you feel strongly about it and the doctor doesn't give you what you need, then you need to go see somebody else, and until you've got a reasonable response. Because I do think we know our bodies quite well, and we know ourselves quite well, and we know when something's wrong. So trust your gut on that, for sure.